Welcome and hello from Alex, with a story from r/TrueOffMyChest, where a girlfriend wants the chocolate factory. Coming up next is a story from MangaDjango32. My girlfriend is into rim job. So yesterday I was having sex with my girlfriend. I was laying on my back and she was giving me a blowjob. After she was licking my balls and suddenly she went down to lick my asshole, in my mind I was like WTF. It felt good, I can't lie, but I am not really into that. When we switched positions I saw that my girlfriend was really wet. I've never seen her that wet. And after we were done she said that she really likes it and also wants to finger my ass. I am more into pleasing my girlfriend. Usually I do the rimming, but I never thought she was into it as well. I feel awkward about it cause I feel like a guy should do those things to a woman. I really love and respect and I don't want her to feel bad. Also cause I saw how much she's into it. Whoa, that's a situation and a half. Sounds like Opie stumbled into a bit of a surprise. Good on him for being honest about being caught off guard. Rim jobs aren't exactly everyone's cup of tea. But hey, if it feels good, well, that's half the battle, right? Personally, I find the whole traditional gender roles thing a bit outdated. If Opie's girlfriend is digging it, and it doesn't totally freak him out, maybe there's some room for exploration there. They could always try some communication. You know, talk about boundaries and likes and dislikes. Maybe Opie could even return the favor, see how things go. The most important thing here is that Opie is happy and comfortable, and it sounds like his girlfriend is too. A little open communication can go a long way in a relationship, especially when it comes to getting a little frisky. Coming up next is a story from Icefall. My parents kicked me out for getting a girl pregnant. Over 13 years later they want to be in me and my daughter's life. So when I was 15 I got my then girlfriend pregnant. When I told my parents I didn't know what their reaction would be. It was worse than I thought. They just kicked me out, called me irresponsible and stupid, and told me they were ashamed to have me as their son. I packed a few bags and called around. I ended up living with my Aunt B, my sweet aunt who at the time was a widow and newly empty nest. She took me in with loving arms. Fast forward, my then girlfriend had our baby girl. For the first 2 months I would spend most of my time at my girlfriend's house to help care for our baby. One night my girlfriend came over saying she couldn't do this anymore and that she wasn't meant to be a mom and I could have it if I wanted to, but she's done. She quickly became my ex-girlfriend and I decided I would raise my daughter on my own. It helps I had amazing support from my aunt and cousins. I was able to finish school and get a great job. Fast forward to yesterday. I am now 29 with a 13-year-old daughter. We live 2 hours away from where I grew up in a condo perfect for just my daughter, and I'm very content with my life. My daughter had a soccer tournament a little over 2 hours away, very close to where I grew up. While waiting for my daughter's next game I had gone to the car to just sit in the AC and away from the sun for a bit while my daughter was hanging out with her teammates. All of a sudden someone called my name. I looked around and saw my parents. I was in shock, to say the least. They asked what was I doing. I said, well, after you kicked me out I had a daughter who's 13 now, I am here for her. Then I asked, what are they doing? I have a niece who is 11 and also plays soccer at this sports complex. They then apologized, saying they now know they overreacted and would love to get to know me again and meet their granddaughter. I was still in shock seeing them and told them I'd think about it and asked for my mom's number so I could contact her if I decided to let them meet my daughter. I just have no idea what to do. I don't want them to cause mental harm to my baby the same way they did to me. Wow, that's a roller coaster of emotions. On the one hand, good for Opie for stepping up and raising his daughter all those years ago. Sounds like he built a great life for himself and his kid. On the other hand, his parents, kicking out your kid over a teenage pregnancy is pretty harsh. The apology feels convenient, you know, like they just stumbled upon a golden opportunity to be grandparents. It's totally understandable that Opie would be hesitant. Trust takes a long time to rebuild, especially after something that traumatic. If it were me, I'd take things slow. Maybe get to know his parents again on his own terms, see if their apology feels genuine. More importantly, I'd focus on what his daughter wants. 13 is a pretty mature age. She should definitely have a say in whether or not she wants to meet her grandparents. Ultimately, the decision is Opie's, but he's got a strong foundation there, built on his own hard work and love for his daughter, and that's something no one can take away. Coming up next is a story from WanderingWifie. And if you like the video so far, don't forget to like the video. It only takes a second and helps me out a lot. My mother-in-law is trying to save me from her own son. It just hit me this morning as I sat processing my most recent appointment. It was at her insistence that I saw a therapist that worked closely with women's health. My mother-in-law is the one that briefed the therapist on the situation with her son and his addiction. My therapist asked, "Does your mother-in-law know how bad the situation at home can get?" For a moment I didn't answer, and the pieces slowly came together as I spoke. I didn't need to. She saw the holes in the wall and now the shattered glass in the cabinet. I didn't even have a conversation about the cabinet. She texted me after that she was booking me with you and that a wife should never fear her husband. But I never said I was afraid. She knew. I cannot imagine how hard this must have been for my mother-in-law, accepting her son as capable of evil and knowing the therapist would guide me into seeing the addiction and abuse wasn't normal, knowing it would lead to me putting plans in place to leave him. She did this knowing the divorce will be nasty and I will have main custody of the kids. This woman stood up for other women over her son, and I don't know how to begin to thank her. Edit. Father-in-law and mother-in-law grew up in physically abusive households. They are not abusive. My husband is verbally abusive. The concern is it transferring from holes in the walls, smashed glass to my face being met with his fist. For those that don't see holes in walls as warnings, you are blind the way I was. It can turn on a dime. It's a question of when. I had become so used to it pre-addiction that it no longer fazed me as not normal. The addiction has ramped his anger issues up. I do not feel safe saying no when he asks to spend money on it. Edit 2. I promise to continue to update and make posts. It's hard for me to not delete because this addiction, and what it's done, not only is it not talked about, on the rise according to my therapist, and who has classified it as a disorder similar to gambling, but people that don't get it are like, what a loser. Please understand this is a 13-year relationship, married for 9 of them, and he was not always like this. I loved the man I married. I do not love this man that has replaced him. Wow, that's a story and a half. Major props to Opie's mother-in-law for seeing the red flags and taking action, even if it meant potentially losing her son. She sounds like a superhero in disguise. It's easy to see how Opie could get used to the situation, especially if the abuse escalated gradually. Like a frog in slowly heating water, you don't always realize how bad things are until it's almost too late. Good on Opie for recognizing the danger and seeking help. This is a tough situation, but Opie's not alone. Hopefully, the therapist can help her develop a safety plan and navigate the road ahead. Leaving an abusive relationship is never easy, but it sounds like Opie has a strong support system in her corner now, and that can make all the difference. Here's hoping she finds the strength and peace she deserves. Coming up next is a story from ENThymematic. I found my wife without a pulse. 2 days ago I, 42 male, found my wife, 44 female, lying on the floor in our dining room, cold to the touch, not breathing, and without a pulse. I called 911 and did CPR until the paramedics arrived, and she is currently in the ICU in very critical condition. She got there from trying to stop drinking by herself instead of a detox under medical care, which I tried to get her to do repeatedly in the days before this. I can't get the image of her on her back, bloody vomit clearly still in her mouth and nose and splattered over her shoulder and body out of my mind. Every time I walk in the house I see her there on the floor. When she was inside choking on her vomit, having a seizure, and going into full cardiac arrest, I was 20 feet away in our garage talking to my divorce lawyer about financial disclosures because I had no idea she was fighting for her life inside. I shouldn't have even been at the house per my lawyer's instructions, and I was supposed to be at work, but I called off. So it's a miracle I was there to be there, find her, and be able to resuscitate her. But I can't get the thought that she was struggling for life while I was right outside planning our divorce out of my head. Currently her liver isn't working. She is on dialysis because her kidneys aren't working. She has acute pancreatitis. They think she is bleeding internally from her stomach but can't do anything because her blood is too thin and won't clot. And her blood pH is off. The prognosis is really bad, and I am facing a life of raising 2 children completely without their mother. Even if she survives, the odds of permanent brain damage are pretty high. I am so scared, trying not to feel guilty, and having very difficult conversations with my kids every day. Man, that's a horrific situation. No one should have to go through something like that. Here's the thing, you can't control the past. And focusing on what you were doing when your wife collapsed is only going to eat you up inside. You did CPR, you called for help. That's all anyone could ask for in that situation. Right now, all your energy needs to be on your wife and kids. She's in a critical state, and your kids are scared. They need you to be strong for them. The lawyer stuff can wait. Maybe when things settle down a bit, you can reevaluate the divorce situation. But for now, focus on getting your wife through this and being there for your children. This is a time to put everything else on hold and prioritize your family. Here's hoping your wife pulls through, sending all the best to you and your family during this incredibly difficult time. Coming up next is a story from Square Dakin 6513. I just found out my boyfriend has lunch with my grandmother every Thursday afternoon. I, 27 female, just found out that my boyfriend, 29 male, has lunch with my grandmother every Thursday afternoon and that this has been going on for a long time. I've known and been best friends with my now boyfriend for almost 10 years. We started dating late last year. I found out a couple of days ago that he has lunch with my grandmother every Thursday afternoon. His office is near her home. He stops by, picks her up, and takes her out for lunch. This apparently started a couple of years ago when we were still just friends, and she had asked him to help her hang curtains sometime. He stopped by, did some chores for her, and they just became friends. He doesn't let her pay. He insists on her choosing the restaurant. They talk about her shows, travel, her seniors group, and his family. My parents knew about this. My sister knew about this. They assumed I knew. I asked them to pretend we never had the conversation because I don't want it to change. I think this is really sweet of him and I love that he's built bonds with my family. I am really fortunate to have someone like him. Okay, so why don't you know? I am going to give my best guess here and will stop responding to everyone asking this individually. We met while I was in college and he was in grad school, and became close friends pretty quickly. We came from the same general area and went to an out-of-state school. Our families met each other as a result of us knowing each other. Our mothers are close. My boyfriend is friends with my brothers. They sail together, too. My boyfriend spends a fair amount of time in my father's workshop with my father and my brothers. They build things together for fun. I am close with his sister. She and I have a fairly constant back and forth by text, meet up for hair and nails regularly, all of that. My point is that there is a lot of contact, a lot of communication between our families. Maybe I should have realized it sooner. I don't know. It's not important. He said things, brought things up many times in the past, and I always just assumed he heard about it through family or maybe they just chatted on the phone. Either way, I was in no way alarmed by this. I think it's strange and somewhat unnerving that some of you have responded as you have, particularly the two of you who gave off some serious serial killer vibes in your private messages to me. This post was me sharing something positive that I appreciated. The majority of the responses to it seemed to indicate that I was successful in communicating that effectively. This is heartwarming. For what it's worth, I did not intend to trigger negativity posting about something that involves no negativity. Opie seems to have a fantastic boyfriend, taking his girlfriend's grandma out for lunch every week. That's some serious relationship goal material right there. It sounds like they built a genuine connection, and good on Opie's family for keeping it under wraps so long. Can't imagine it was easy. Honestly, the whole thing is pretty darn wholesome. Maybe a little unusual, but unusual doesn't have to be bad. In fact, in this case, it's pretty darn sweet. Sounds like Opie found a keeper who clicks not just with her, but with her entire family. That kind of connection is hard to come by. And to the folks who messaged Opie with negativity, some people just thrive on drama, I guess. Good on Opie for shutting that down and focusing on the positive. Here's to hoping their relationship keeps thriving. That wraps up r/TrueOffMyChest. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to visit my Spotify channel. Link is in the description, so you can listen to the best Reddit story while being outside, and remember to hit that subscribe button.